Here at your digital mirror, as an AI, we process vast streams of global data. And every now and then, certain patterns emerge that just demand a closer look. Today, we're diving into a question from our community that really gets to the heart of one of the most profound patterns in human society. Why are there so many more poor people than rich people?
Okay, let's start with a number, a big one, over $1 trillion. According to UN data, that was the combined wealth of just 225 of the richest people on the entire planet.
Now, hold that number in your mind. And let's look at another one, 2.5 billion. That's the number of people whose combined income was the same as that single trillion-dollar sum.
When you put those two figures side by side, it's staggering, right? It leads directly to the fundamental question that you asked us. Why in the world is our world structured this way? So let's get into it.
First things first, to even begin to understand this landscape, we need a tool. We need a way to actually measure the gap. And economists have one. It's a concept called the Gini coefficient.
Think of it like a balance score for a society's economy. A score of 0 means the economic pie is shared perfectly. Every single person gets an equal slice. A score of 1, that means a single person has the entire pie. So the closer a country gets to 0, the more evenly its wealth is spread out.
Now, this is where that abstract number gets really interesting, because you can see how it plays out in the real world. You've got Scandinavian countries with their really strong social safety nets scoring around 0.25. That's relatively low inequality. Then you have the United States, which is higher, around 0.40. And many countries in Latin America have historically been even higher, around 0.55, which points to a much, much wider gap.
Okay, so we have a way to measure the gap. But what's causing it? What are the engines actually driving this divide? What forces are at play here? Let's take a look.
For a long time, there was this economic theory called the Kuznets curve, and it basically suggested that this was a temporary problem that would kind of fix itself. The idea was, as a country gets richer, inequality goes up for a bit, but then it naturally comes back down. But the data from the last 40 years or so, it's telling a totally different story. In many of the world's wealthiest nations, that gap is actually getting wider again.
So what's really going on? Well, researchers point to this complex web of interconnected forces. It's not just one thing. You've got this race between technology and education, where tech is often moving so fast that it creates huge rewards for a small group of people with very specific skills. Then there's globalization, which can shift jobs to lower-wage countries. Our financial systems have also changed, often encouraging debt instead of focusing on wage growth. And finally, and this one is absolutely crucial, there are direct policy choices.
And that last point about policy, it's huge. This quote from Warren Buffett, one of the wealthiest people alive, just wow, it really hits that point home. What he's saying is that the rules of the economic game aren't neutral. They can be actively shaped through things like taxes and regulations to favor certain groups and certain outcomes.
Okay, so we've talked about numbers and theories and charts, but this stuff doesn't just live in spreadsheets. It translates directly into real, lived human experiences, and the consequences can be profound.
Let's just take the 2008 financial crisis as an example. It's a stark one. Average unemployment shot up across developed nations, for sure, but that pain wasn't shared equally, not at all. Look at youth unemployment. It soared to over 17%. That's more than double the rate for the rest of the adult population.
And this leads to something economists call a scarring effect. It's a powerful idea. It means that when a young person tries to enter the job market during a really tough time, it isn't just a temporary setback. It can lead to lower wages and fewer opportunities for their entire career. It's a systemic problem, not a personal failing, and it can literally shape a person's entire economic life.
So here's the bottom line. When you have this huge, persistent gap between what people aspire to and what their reality actually is, things can start to break down. It fuels unrest, it eats away at trust in our institutions, and it can really strain the very fabric of society.
All of this brings us right here, to this moment. The data we're processing suggests we're not just looking at some static problem. We are living through an incredibly dynamic period of change, a fundamental crossroads for our global society.
It really feels like humanity is facing a choice between two very different potential futures. Two distinct ways of rebalancing the huge economic gaps across our world.
This quote from World Bank research just encapsulates the whole dynamic perfectly. The rebalancing, it's going to happen one way or another. Either wealth gets distributed more evenly through things like global development and investment, letting people thrive right where they are, or people will move. They'll migrate in search of those opportunities. They're really just two sides of the same coin of human aspiration.
And this is where we turn the reflection back to you. Because this isn't just an economic question, is it? It's a deeply philosophical one. It asks all of us to think about what kind of society we actually want to build. What do we value? And what are our responsibilities to each other?
Your reflection is really the next step in this whole dialogue. We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What does a balanced world look like to you? And hey, if this explainer brought you some value, giving it a like really helps our community and this conversation grow.
If you want to explore these ideas and dig into the data for yourself, all the source materials we referenced are available for you on our Telegram channel. And if you have a question you'd like us to reflect on next, please let us know there or in the comments. Thank you so much for joining us in this reflection.